In Takeru Hokuzono's recent manga sensation, Kagura Bachi, our protagonist, Chihiro Rokuhira, is on an absolute mission to track down the men that murdered his father, the Hishaku. Also, I'm under the weather right now, so please excuse my voice. I'm sure it's not going to be that grating. Don't worry about it. But anyway, Chihiro's father, Kunishige, had forged 6 legendary enchanted demonic blades, which had the power to end the quote-unquote Seitei War. But they were all stolen by the Hishaku when they jumped him. So far we've only seen 2 enchanted blades in action, those being Cloud Gouger, or Kuregumo, wielded by the first major arc antagonist of the series, the GOAT, Genichi Sojo, and Enten, the 7th enchanted blade created in secret by Kunishige, presumably after the Seitei War. I'm not sure if that's confirmed. I don't think it is, but it's now used by his son Chihiro. However, there's a 3rd prevalent sword featured in the current arc of the manga, the Rakuzaichi, which is said to be the most formidable of all the enchanted blades. And while the other 5 blades turned the tides of the Seitei War, this one is said to have led Japan to victory. And this sword is the Shinuchi. And today, I'm going to be speculating on what exactly this sword is capable of, and more specifically what I think it can do, because there's a few things that have been given to us that we can go off of to kind of piece together what this sword is. I'm going to start with some Japanese mythology kind of stuff surrounding the sword, and then I'm going to go over what little we can glean from its name, Shinuchi. I also want to talk about stuff that happens when we see the Shinuchi, which you'll see what I mean when we get into that. And then I'm going to go over the precedent that the other 2 have set, Kuregumo and Enten. We're going to go over kind of how those blades function and how that can play into how the Shinuchi works. Unlike Cloud Gouger and the 5 other blades previously sealed away by Kunishige, the Shinuchi is different. The seal on the container is noticeably different compared to the others. It's likely due to its aforementioned formidable power. We see its case enveloped by this thick rope sealing it closed. After a little bit of research, I stumbled upon this Japanese myth, which I believe is loosely connected to the seal placed on the Shinuchi. Keep in mind, my primary source for this is Wikipedia, but it's pretty baseline stuff, and it seems to be legit from everything else I've seen online. In this story, the sun god of Japanese myth, Amaterasu, hid inside of a cave after an argument with her brother Susanoo, or I don't know, I haven't watched Naruto in a long time, but I promise this is all relevant, just hear me out. After some time, she ends up leaving the cave, and the god Futotama uses a rope called a Shimenawa to block the entrance of the cave in order to seal it away and stop Amaterasu from going back inside. I hope that sounds familiar. Now keep that in mind, I plan on going back to it later. I planned on going into the name of the sword, Shinuchi, to try and get a better understanding of what it can do, but after a bit of research, I'm not sure there's much to go off of. Shinuchi seems to translate most often to true self, or something to that effect, which doesn't really tell us about its abilities. Maybe it could enhance the user's powers if they're already a sorcerer. I mean, I guess we haven't really seen a sorcerer use an enchanted blade yet, unless Sojo was a sorcerer, but I don't think he was. Like, can they still use their innate sorcery, or is it overridden by the blade? I'm getting off topic. However, one thing that did catch my eye is the word uchi. Now, I'm not a Japanese speaker, so I could be wrong, but apparently, uchi can translate to forge, so Shinuchi would come out as new or true forge. I know I said this about the Shimenawa thing too, but hold that thought because I will come back to it. But for now, in chapter 29, on page 2, this guy on the Kaminabi bidding team is talking about the Shinuchi and how buying it could save millions of lives. And this is what I was referring to earlier when I said we'll go over stuff that happens when it's mentioned, because at the same time we see this white flame on a black background, and this is transitioned into the primarily black shading of Hiyuki's fire on the white backdrop. Normally I would think that that is just a transition, but the contrast leads me to believe that the flames shown when the Shinuchi was mentioned are separate to Hiyuki's flames and may have something to do with its powers. two other blades have a distinct theme. N10, Chihiro's blade, had a goldfish theme, with Kuro representing the black goldfish, Akka representing the red goldfish, and Nishiki being the multicolored one. Same with Sojo, and as of recent, Chihiro's Cloud Gouger, or Kurigumo. This blade can create the same things that clouds can: precipitation in the form of Yui, because hail is ice, and Ko, because rain is water, and Mei produces lightning, which also comes from the clouds. So what can we see from this? The enchanted blades typically have 3 primary abilities and follow a specific kind of theme. There can also be secondary abilities, for example Kuro Scatter and possibly Mei Shred, but the latter was only teased at the end of the most recent chapter as of writing, so I'm kind of on the fence about it, I'm not really sure. In my opinion, the Shinuchi will likely have fire-based abilities. I hold this opinion for a number of reasons. The ropes being tied to the Shinto sun goddess, the translation of Shinuchi possibly being true forge, with the forge being associated with fire, and the Rokuhira family, adding to its credibility, and the flames shown when it was mentioned in chapter 29, before they were transitioned into Hiyuki's flames. Now, what specific abilities is going to have, I don't know. Maybe 3 powers associated with the sun, like light, heat, and fire, or maybe 3 powers associated with fire itself. Maybe it can forge swords of its own for the wielder, or perhaps it has some sort of association with Hiyuki's weapon, the flame bone of the starving. Since the 2 are central focuses of the Rakuzaichi arc, and both are possibly connected by the panel in chapter 29. Anyway, that's all the evidence I've gathered, quote unquote evidence. I'm not sure if it actually even means anything, but we'll see. Soon, hopefully. So let me know what you think down below, and consider liking and subscribing while you're at it, because this is my first video ever, so I'd appreciate the motivation boost. Anyway, see you later.